Hey there, Stuart from Aldera here again, and I wanted to take another 3 or 4 minutes to explain another model to you that I think is really useful on two levels. Firstly, I think it's going to have a real impact in helping you to understand what your 5 options are when it comes to growing your business over the next few years. But more importantly, I think it might give you a bit of insight into one of the thought processes that many clients get involved in, which causes them procrastination. Let me show you the 5 futures. First things first, I need to sort of give kudos to Simon Bowen. This is a model he created. It's been really useful for helping me to sort of identify issues that may stop people from progressing and working on their business. I think it'll be really useful for you. Check out Simon's stuff at simonbowen.com. But the 5 models future is really, really simple. It's based around the idea that at some point, we are faced with a decision to set some goals, get some help, whatever it might be. We have generally a few different things in mind. We have 5 potential futures. This future here is kind of like what is going to happen if we just keep doing what we're doing. And in most people's cases, doing what they're keeping doing is probably going to get them, what we call, okay kind of result. And for most business owners, that may be continuing to work pretty much the same kind of hours they have now, maybe seeing modest growth, some years of falling, but ultimately it's a whole bunch of not changing. I think what most people I speak to when we sit down in like a strategy session or a leverage session and we talk about what they want, they have a ideal situation. One thing they'd love to get if everything went like amazingly. And that might be for them a certain growth, a certain number of clients. It's a certain success story they'd love if only time, resources, and frankly, the knowledge was there. Somewhere in between these two things is kind of a midpoint. That's pretty good. It's a better than okay, but it's not quite the amazing result. It's maybe not quite the moonshot, but the piece they'd like in between. Now, of course, there's also the potential that things could go wrong. There's the potential that, it doesn't go to plan. Things are a little bit harder, legislative change comes along, and the outcome they get over a period of time is frankly bad. And then there's the worst case scenario. That everything goes pear-shaped. They end up with, the worst possible outcome they could get. Now, when I generally speak to business owners, I'll be frank with you, in most cases, all of those 5 options are all on the table. Frankly, the kind of business you build is less about how smart you are, your connections, and more about getting the right information and putting in place the right frameworks, but most of all, taking action. But here's the thing you really need to know. If you and I were to sit down, or you just sit down with your clients and envision the 5 futures, there is a time factor in there. Let's say we start planning on a 10-year journey. What you'll notice is that the further along you go, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, etc., something strange starts to happen. You might wait a year to start working on your business. In which case, look, to be quite honest, there are things you could have done in the last year which would improve things, but most things are on the table. By about year 2, suddenly we start to notice that the benefit of acting early would have actually got you here. There's starting to gap appear. By year 3, of procrastinating, of working out what to do, of trying to assess what your options are, the gap is starting to open. And the further along we go, year 4, year 5, we start to get to a point where, because action hasn't been taken, whether it's, acting on your business, making a commitment to actually change things, or for clients, they've decided not to get advice, the gap starts to open. I've seen this with friends. In your 20s and 30s, everybody's pretty same situation, but suddenly around about the age of 30 and 40, we start to notice a gap opening up. And the problem is the longer you wait to do something, the more likely it is of the inability to bridge that gap. In actual fact, if we're talking about advice clients, there comes a point where it no longer is possible to achieve the amazing result. And so we're really talking about the good stuff. And eventually we get to a point where, that's off the table too. And we're looking at something which is okay. Of course, this is all predicated on the fact that nothing bad happens along the way that makes you suddenly realize you needed to change. I think this is a really important lesson, not just for us as business owners, but also for us in dealing with clients, that whilst we can sit down and paint the picture of what the future looks like and be really positive about the possibilities, procrastination is one of those things that people do. It's sometimes easier to make a decision to kind of get along or get your house in order or, wait another year or just see how it goes before taking action. But as Einstein once said, compounding is one of the most powerful concepts in the world. And in actual fact, the longer we wait to act, we take options off the table. We take off the table the ability to get to where we're going. And eventually procrastination will turn into the inability to hit those goals. In other words, lost opportunity. I hope this has been useful. For me, procrastination is one of the things that not only do clients I work with, advice businesses struggle with, but also I struggle with. There are many things that I would love it if advice businesses were just, even if acting small at this point, reviewing your value proposition, doing some work on your first appointment, starting that journey towards processes, crossing the threshold when it comes to technology, implementing some of the stuff that enabled them to get better at working with staff members, because it's the small stuff here that ends up with the big stuff here. And more importantly, it's the failure to do the small stuff here, both if we're talking about businesses and clients, that cuts off our opportunity to build amazing business in the future. I hope this has been useful. Again, kudos to Simon Bowen for some great models, the 5 futures. Have a great week.